now meet the members of our first panel. Let's welcome back Mr. Melvin Jeffrey Chan, Vice President and Head of Enterprise Innovations and IoT Business Development of PLDT Enterprise, Mr. Chet Alves, Vice President and Head of Wireless Core Business Solutions at PLDT Enterprise, and Mr. Jay Chavez, Senior Vice President and Chief Operating Officer at Iconics EMS. And to our audience, if you have any questions for our panelists, please feel free to type it in the chat box. So we will be waiting for that. I have my iPad right here, and I'm going to be waiting for your questions. All right, so first question here. Thank you for sending that in pretty early. This one goes directly to Mr. Melvin Jeffrey Chan. So we're going to be kicking off with you. This audience question says, besides the examples and the deep dive that you mentioned today earlier on in your presentation, are there any other industries that will be significantly influenced or changed by IoT? So something that we didn't see earlier on.
Okay, so thank you for that question. As you might recall from our IoT theme today, IoT is basically Internet of Possibilities for us here at PLDT Enterprise. So literally it can be anything applicable to in any industries. So just to recall that in the short video you saw a while ago, we cover precise agriculture, smart logistics, media and entertainment through extended reality, and smart manufacturing. Also in my deep dive session, we cover retail, medical, and automotive industries. But there are more industries on the list. It could be mining, energy and utility, hospitality, education, banking and finance, and so on. The industrial use cases and possibilities are literally limitless, and that's why it's exciting. So we would like to invite everyone to co-innovate with us through IoT and 5G, regardless of your industry.
Thank you for that answer. So it's not only the standard industries that we usually think about. Even mining might be benefiting. I'm trying to think of how mining will be doing Internet of Things in the future. You know, this next question goes to Chet Alves, of course, of PLDT Enterprise. The person asks, what makes this IoT offering different from what is already available in the market? And how do you think this will change the IoT landscape? Give us a pitch on why this is so different.
Yeah, thanks for the question. Obviously, like I said, it's the first of its kind in the Philippines. Your run-of-the-mill IoT solutions out in the market obviously cover, like what Melvin said, different kinds of use cases, ranging from transport, logistics, tracking, and all of these things that require connectivity, right? But I guess what makes the IoT, the smart IoT platform different, it's the user interface by which you can actually view, control, and see everything that's out there. No? This is the first of its kind, and it's also integrated into the back end of smart communication. So you can actually, like I said earlier in my talk, no? You can have full visibility, full control, and transparency on everything, right? So it's going to be very exciting for us, and how it's going to change the landscape. I feel it's going to be a real game changer, right? If you can see and actually monitor everything, all of your connected devices out there, you should be ahead of the game in terms of making data-driven decisions, because all of the analytics that you get from the platform you can use. And I guess we're really excited to be launching this finally in this year's DigiCon. Again, we announced it last year, and now we're here. So hopefully with our clients out there, starting with the Ionics here, Jane, we can actually talk about more stuff moving forward.
Okay, so just getting started here, the possibilities are endless. Yes. We're going to be seeing in the next DigiCon whether this was actually implemented and how that's been working. That would be very, very interesting. And off to you, yes. Jay. This question is very interesting because they're asking for specific sectors here. How important is the application of IoT and smart technologies in the manufacturing sector specifically, and also in the service sector?
Well, thank you for the question. IoT and smart technologies are really fast becoming a must for the manufacturing sector. When we started our Industry 4.0 program back in 2015, it was mostly to have just a proof of concept. When we rolled it out, it soon became our competitive advantage. But fast forward to today, we now see that industrial IoT and smart manufacturing is quickly transitioning from being a competitive advantage if you have it to actually a minimum requirement in order to compete. So we see it everywhere in the manufacturing sector. And talking about the service sector, this is where we actually saw huge disruptions by companies like Amazon, Airbnb, Uber. So I believe that for the service sector, it's even brutal. If you don't implement any form of smart technology, you will soon be obsolete. So for me, basically, IoT and smart technologies should be an integral part of a company strategy. So whether you're using an app to track orders, or or a full blown program like what Ionix has, really companies must start implementing it in one form or another.
Okay, so it's not a cool thing to do. It's not an innovative thing to do. It's the norm. It's the basic standard. It's no longer the gold standard. You need to have it now. Back to Melvin. This is a very interesting question on bridging the gap, right? So what is being done today to bridge the gap in the availability and affordability of IoT on the one hand, and of equipment and devices in the Philippines, as well as, on the other hand, addressing the skill sets and the expertise which are required to deploy and operate these locally? So it's nice to have the technology, but there's this gap on, are we able to have the skill sets to operate these?
I agree with you. This is actually, in fact, a very interesting question. Here at PLDT, we fully recognize that in order to deliver this new experience and advanced use cases with 5G and IoT locally, an ecosystem of partners, vendors, and subject matter experts is actually needed. We've been working with for the last couple of years in building and deepening our partnerships across various sectors, from startup tech to platform players, network and solutions partners to global telcos, to conduct deeper knowledge sharing across various key stakeholders. This allows us to accelerate the building of skill set and expertise around IoT and the next generation's communications for all this local enterprise. This has also enabled us to quickly and easily trying out our new use cases with our partners to launch local pilots or POC, proof of concepts. And also, as prices of IoT devices and modules continue to decrease and normalize toward adaptation, I think it will make it more available in the Philippines markets in the very soon future. That's how I believe it.
Okay, so a lot of pilot testing, a lot of collaboration here is needed, of course, to bridge that gap. This one first, Chet Alvis, and don't say all. Which industries will benefit the most with this IoT platform?
Melvin said all, obviously. Again, we hang on to what we're saying from a campaign perspective, right? That it's a myriad of possibilities out there. But again, if cornered, obviously, we start with manufacturing. Jay mentioned that it's critical right now for the manufacturing industry, right? And along with our sales teams, you will see one of our heads later, Dennis, maybe talk about this further in length. But it's more about manufacturing. Of course, we have use cases within the public sector that takes care of safety and security. There are also instances where we can take a look at use cases that can enhance the productivity and efficiency of systems within the retail industry, which really needs help, because of the ongoing pandemic, obviously. And the more obvious use cases are logistics and transport. I could go on and on and on, like I said in my talk. But I think what's important is we need to, create a more immersive and rich dialogue with our clients. I can go on and on all day, talk about the use cases, myself and Melvin. But in reality, it's really with the actual use cases with our clients when we sit down with them and generate more practical use cases so that we can have more productivity moving forward. I think that's that's the key.
Also, like taking the low-hanging fruit, right? Which ones are already
Exactly
able to deploy it right now? And finally, very interesting question for Jay Chavez of Ionix. IoT and smart manufacturing implementation looks very complicated. First of all, do you agree with that? Is it complicated? What can you advise companies on where to start and how to go about their own IoT journeys?
Well, yeah, it can be complicated or it can be simple, but as to the question, where to start, that's a very good question. Like Chet said and Melvin, there's so many use cases, right? Companies can choose from a lot of different use cases where to start. But for me, what I believe is that companies should start with the decision to include IoT and smart technologies as part of their strategy. It's October, so most companies will actually have their strategic planning sessions. So it's a good time to include conversations about how to include smart technologies, IoT in their business. And I'm sure if they put that in their agenda and just start the conversation, they will find out which part of their business they can start it with. So I say basically start small,
Okay.
learn fast, and just build a niche success. Well, that's my advice.
Thank you. So just do it. Just find a way
just
to
do
do it. Just go for it. Complicated or simple, just start somewhere. So thank you so much, gentlemen. That's all the time we have for this panel. And unfortunately, we don't have much time for more questions. And allow me to thank the members of our very first panel for this enlightening discussion. Thank you so much, Mr. Melvin Jeffrey Chan and Mr. Chet Alvis of PLDT Enterprise, and of course, Mr. Jay Chavez, Head of Ionics Philippines.